Hey, what's up everyone, it's your girl Brady Shanae, and today I'm going to be sharing with you all the books that I'm going to be voting for the Goodreads Choice Awards. And I am back, and also if you're new to my channel, welcome, if not welcome back. So like I said before, I'm going to be sharing with you all the books I plan on voting for the Goodreads Choice Awards this year. I'm really excited to share with y'all what I'll be voting for and who I'm going to be voting for. So let's go ahead and get started with the first category, and that is going to be fiction. Now, for this particular category, I've only read one book, so I'm going to be voting for her. And so the book that I'm going to be voting for fiction, for best fiction, is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I love R.F. Kuang. I love her writing style. I really enjoyed this book particularly. I know some people either hated it or loved it. I actually enjoyed it. I love the premise of it. I love the concept of it. And so I like that it brought up certain issues, especially when it comes to the publishing world. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed this book. So I am going to be voting for Yellowface. I do see some other contenders in this category, do not get me wrong. And that I do plan on reading some of these books, like Blackouts by Justin Torres. That looks like a very interesting book. So I have a feeling it's going to be a contender in this category, as well as Mame by Jessica George. I really do want to read this book in particular. I think I heard that it's either going to be a TV series or a movie. So I definitely want to get my hands on it and read it before then. But yeah, my final decision for this category for best fiction is going to be Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Now, for the next category, we have historical fiction. And I am in the middle of reading one book particular in this category. There's some other books I do want to read in this category, but for this one particularly, I'm going to be voting for Let Us Descend by Jasmine Ward. And actually, y'all know, don't come for me, but this was my first book that I read that I'm reading by Jasmine Ward. I do plan on reading her backlist, and of course, this is Oprah's pick, her recent pick. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this looks like towards the end of Goodreads. I really hope that it stays in and that we'll see it in the next round, because I really do enjoy this book. It's very hard hitting. It's not something like an easy read, sometimes you're going to have to put the book down. But from what I'm reading so far, I really am enjoying this book. So my final vote is definitely going to be for Let Us Descend by Jasmine Ward for best historical fiction. But there are some other contenders as well that I think is going to be in here, like The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese, which I think is a contender, which is also another Oprah pick. But I do want to read The Covenant of Water. I also want to read River Sing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer. I want to read that as well. And also I want to read The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. I believe that is like a mystery thriller, so I do want to actually read this. But apparently it's also historical fiction, but I think it runs in hand with mystery thriller, in my opinion. But yeah, so once again, my final vote for best historical fiction is going to be Let Us Descend by Jasmine Ward. And so for the next category, but yeah, so once again, my final vote for best historical fiction is going to be Let Us Descend by Jasmine Ward. And so for the next category, we have mystery and thriller, and I've only read one book in this particular category, and I am so happy that I read it. I'll read anything and everything by this author. And so I'm hands down, I'm going to be voting for All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I love his writing. I love how each story has its own unique thing. I love the audiobooks. Like, his books are fire, y'all. If you haven't read any book by S.A. Cosby, you are missing out. I highly recommend that you read his books. I've read, the only book that I haven't read by him is The Dark Place, or The Darkest Place, which I do want to end up picking up really soon. But yeah, All the Sinners Bleed was so good. I loved it, you guys. Like, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So my vote for best mystery thriller is going to be, without a doubt, All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I don't really see a lot of heavy hitters in this category. I know some people might vote for The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden, possibly All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham, or None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. But I really have a good feeling for All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I really do. So I hope that he makes it to the next round. If he doesn't, I'm be very, very, very upset. But yeah, All the Sinners Bleed is going to be my my vote for best mystery thriller. And so let's move on to the next category, which is romance, which is a very disappointing category for sure. If y'all haven't seen, they haven't included any Black author in this category at all. The only BIPOC author I see here is Ana Huang, King of Pride. I haven't read any of these books, but most of these books are really from Book Talk, like hands down. Like when I'm looking at all these books right now for this romance category, I'm thinking of my job, and literally all of these books are on that Book Talk table, y'all. Like literally. And Book Talk it controls sales. Let's just put it that way. It controls sales. I have no words, to be honest. I'm just very, very disappointed with this because I know that there's a lot of Black authors that have released romance books, particularly this year of 2023, and it's just very disheartening that this is constantly like a constant occurrence when it comes to Goodreads. Like I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I haven't read any books in these in this category, so I'm not going to be voting. But if y'all just like look at it, like as I'm scrolling, it's just ridiculous to me. I don't understand. But let's move on. Let's move on to romantasy. Now, for this category, I've read a couple of books. I've read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer, and I've also read the Hurricane Wars by Thea Guazin. And each book, they were pretty good. I really enjoyed the books that I've read in this category. But I felt like the one that I'm going towards the most is Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. Not only has romance and it's fantasy, but it also has a lot of humor in it as well that I really enjoyed with this particular book. I actually loved it, and to the point I'm actually looking forward to the second book. So I think for the romantasy category, for the opening round, I'm gonna go with Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. I really enjoyed this, but like I said, there's heavy hitters in this particular category. You have Carrie Maniscalco, which I love, but I have not read Throne of the Fallen. You have The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. Zodiac Academy, which I haven't read, but I know a lot of people that loved it. You have Carissa Broadbent, who is also a heavy hitter as well. I know a lot of people love Carissa. You have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. So there's a lot of heavy hitters. And then you have Jennifer Armentrout as well. So once again, they're heavy hitters, but I'm going to go with, like I said, Assistant to the Villain for best romantasy. So that will be my vote for that category. The next category, which we'll go into, is fantasy, which I love fantasy. Like fantasy is what I mostly read throughout the year. I've read Venko by Cherie Demeline, which is an Indigenous author, which I loved. I've read Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I've also read, The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. So those are the books that I've read in this particular category for fantasy. And this was a tough one for me, but I felt I had to go with my gut with this one. So I'm going to be voting for The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I, hands down, love this book, y'all. And this is my first book that I've read by Shannon Chakraborty. Don't come for me, y'all. Don't come for me. But literally, this is my first book by Shannon Chakraborty. and I loved it. I fell in love with the world. I fell in love with the characters, and there was some funny moments in this book as well. So yeah, for best fantasy for this category, I'm going to be voting for The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. But I know that there's heavy contenders in this category as well. So who knows? But I will keep my fingers crossed, y'all. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. So once again, I'm gonna be voting for The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi for best fantasy. So for this next category, let's go to science fiction. And I could just tell that I haven't read any of the books for this category, so I won't be voting for any of these books. But I do see some contenders in here. I know some people loved In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klum. And then I'm trying to think, the Jinbot of Shantaport by Samat Basu, I think is also a good contender as well. Translation State by Anne Leckie. There's some good ones. You have Lightbringer by Pierce Brown, which is, author of Red Rising series. I feel like that's also a heavy contender as well. So some of these books I do want to read. I just have to find time to do so. So science fiction, they have some good book selections in here, but since I haven't read any of the books, I'm not going to be voting for this particular category. So we're going to move on to horror. And I'm in the middle of reading one particular book, and I'm going to be voting for her because I love her writing. I'm a huge fan. And so literally for best horror, for this category, I'm going to be voting for The Reformatory by Tanana Ridew. She deserves her flowers, y'all. And so I really want her to win this category. Like, there's some other great books in this category. Sisters of the Lost Nation by Nick Medina, which is an Indigenous author. I actually have that book. I haven't read it yet, but I plan on doing so. We still have Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. So there's some good contenders. You have Lone Women by Victor Laval as well. So you have Silver Nitrate by Sylvia Marino Garcia. So I mean, there's a lot of books in here, but I'm really rooting for Tanana Ridew. I hope she wins this. So once again, for best horror for this category, I'm gonna go with The Reformatory. So let's move on, y'all. Like, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, yep, Tanana Ridew, so there we go. So let's move on to the next category, which is best young adult fantasy and science fiction. I only read a few books in this category. Blood Debts by Terry J. Benton Walker, Delicious Monsters by LaSalle Samberry, Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. So those are the particular books that I've read in this category, and it was a tough one, but I had to go with my gut on this one. So I'm going to be voting for the Blood Debts by Terry J. Benton Walker. I really enjoy his writing. I recently read his middle grade for Black Aweenathon this year, and I loved it. It was amazing, and I really loved Blood Debts. I read Blood Debts earlier this year, and I loved it so much I even did a book review, so I'll leave that up above so you can check it out. But Blood Debts was amazing. I love how it talks about family secrets, how it can be detrimental to your family and the generations after. So it's just, and about breaking cycles and stuff. Like, I really enjoyed this book. If you haven't picked up Blood Debts, I highly recommend that you do so. Like, the second book is going to be coming out soon, and I love the new covers for the book. It's just awesome. But yeah, so for this category for best young adult fantasy and science fiction, I'm going to go with Blood Debts by Terry J. Benton Walker, everyone. So there's that. So that's the book I'm going to select for that one. The next category is young adult fiction. Now, this was a hard one for me. I've read a few books in this category as well. I've read Thieves' Gambit by Kavion Lewis, The Davenports by Crystal Marquise, We Deserve Monuments by Jas Hammonds. I'm going to be reading Warrior Girl on Earth. And then also, I've read Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert as well. But I went with my gut again for this one particularly, and I'm going to be voting for We Deserve Monuments by Jas Hammonds. I love this book wholeheartedly. This book has stayed with me, and I read this book earlier this year. I highly recommend that you read it. If you haven't, definitely do so. I did a book review about it, which I'll leave it up above so you can check it out after you watch this video. But I really loved We Deserve Monuments. It was amazing, y'all. Hands down, 5 out of 5 stars for this book. So yeah, so my final decision is definitely going to be We Deserve Monuments by Jas Hammonds for best young adult fiction for this category. But there's also, like I said, some heavy contenders, so we shall see for this one. And so the next category, we're going to go with debut novel, which I haven't read any of the books for this particular category, so I won't be voting. But there's some good books in here that I've heard about, and I'm curious to see who moves on to the next round. So let's go into nonfiction, which I have a feeling that I haven't read any of the books either in this one. But there are some books I do want to end up reading, like Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. I really do want to read his book. I also want to read 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty. I've heard that's a really good book, so I want to read that. But other than that, I won't be voting in this category because I haven't read any of the books. But yeah, it seems like nonfiction, in this nonfiction category, there's a good selection of books here. So then let's move on to memoir and autobiography, which honestly, I'm not really surprised, but I felt like she should have been in this category, which was Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith. But, you know, it is what it is. Some people, you know, it happens, right? But I haven't read any, well, no, I take that back. I read one book in this category, and I'm not going to be voting for that one, and that is Spare by Prince Harry. I'm sorry. I was not a huge fan, and that was the first memoir autobiography that I read this year, and I don't know how I did it. I don't know what I did. I don't know why I put myself through that. I have no clue. But there's some books in here that I do want to read. Like Thicker Than Water by Kerry Washington. I do want to read her book before the year is over. So if she moves on to the next category, and if I've read the book, I probably will be voting for her. But I also want to read How to Save Babylon by Sophia Sinclair. I've heard that's a great book as well. So, I mean, there are some great books in this category. Do not get me wrong. So, like I said, I'm not going to be voting for this category particularly because I haven't read any of the books, but we'll see who moves on to the next round. And so let's move on to history and biography category, which I haven't read any of these books either, so I will not be voting for any books. But I heard The Wager by David Grann is really good. King, A Life by Jonathan Eigg I've heard people enjoyed that book. I also know someone that had read Master Slave, Husband Wife by Elon Wu. It's an epic journey from slavery to freedom. So yeah, there's some good contenders in this book. I feel like The Wager is definitely going to be up there because people have been talking about this book for months now. So yeah, but I am not going to be voting particularly in this category because once again, I have not read any of the books. So let's go ahead and move on to the next category, which is humor, which once again, I haven't read any of the books, so I won't be voting. But I do want to read Leslie Jones' book, The World Record Book of Racist Stories. That sounds interesting, so that's something that I do want to end up reading. But yeah, there would have been another category, y'all, and that would have been for middle grade and graphic novels. But you know what Goodreads did? They decided to get rid of the category, which is very disappointing. I don't understand why they do this every year. Like, I get it. They expanded, they added romantasy in here. I'm all for expanding. I feel like reading in different genres and categories is always going to be changing. There's always going to be expansion. And so I love the expansion, but then again, that doesn't mean you cut away an entire category. I don't agree with that. I don't understand that because you make it seem like you made it seem, or no, you didn't seem, you made it to the point where you pretty much stated that middle grade and graphic novels do not matter. And they definitely do, because with kids and stuff, that's like what the kids read prior to them reading all these other categories. That's how they are introduced to reading, is those categories. And so you take that away and you make it seem like that category does not matter, and it does matter 100%. So Goodreads, like, y'all need to get it together. Like, seriously, every single year we have to go through something where there's no representation, or you cut out categories out of these awards, which is not right, and it's completely wrong. Y'all need to do better. I don't know why every year we have to do this with y'all, but y'all need to get it together. But Other than that, like, I don't know, we'll see. But those, sorry, I'm just on a rampage, sorry y'all. But those are the books that I voted for the Goodreads Choice Awards for the first round. I believe the opening round is going to be ending fairly soon, I believe, if I'm looking on here correctly. Let me see when it ends. Let's see. It says, yep, so the opening round, so it says, it's time for the Goodreads Choice Awards. Pick the best books of the year from 300 nominees across 15 categories. It says opening round started November 14th through the 26th. And then after the 26th, it goes on into the next category. It goes into the next round, excuse me. But yeah, I really am crossing my fingers for the books and authors that I voted for. Like, I really enjoyed every single book that I've read by these authors. But that is it, everyone. Those are the books that I am voting for this opening round. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please, please, please give me a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But once again, thank you all for watching, and I hope you are staying healthy and staying safe. Bye, everyone.